Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for joining our PadPulse live demo today. Excited to have everybody. If you could just post in the chat if you're here, and give me a quick where you're calling in from. Give me a state or a city. Be super helpful. And just give me a quick thumbs up as well if you're able to hear me. Hi, Marianne, welcome. We're gonna kind of just give it a few minutes, let everybody kind of trickle in here, and then probably give about 2 more minutes, and then we'll kick it off. All right, so this is our first time using this sweet Webinar Jam tool. We're all excited. Got some cool stuff to show everyone today. Like I said, there's a chat going on. You should be able to see at the top right, like a yellow thing about drop your questions kind of as we go. I'm going to go through the whole thing, kind of starting with the research side of things and the operations side of things. And then we'll kind of end on like the revenue, profit, and loss section. We'll talk about, show you how the vendor portal works and you can see it from the vendor side. So if you have any questions as we're going along, just kind of drop it in the Q&A section. My team is on with me, so they'll be able to kind of surface stuff. And then we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. We're going to be maximum 2 hours today total. I expect at least hopefully 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more for Q&A. And if we answer everybody's questions, then great. And then we can end early. All right, give it 1 more minute, maybe 3. I'm in Mountain Time, so when I say 3, it's 3:05 for me. And so I know it's kind of end of the workday for some people. All right. While that's gearing up, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And I think, let's do this. Okay. Give me a yes if you can see my screen. Anybody? Oh, that's fun. This screen just decided to flicker. All right, we got it. Cool. All right. So we're going to go ahead and kick off now. And again, this is recorded. Will be posted on YouTube, and we're likely doing another one of these next week as well. So we're going to jump right in here. This is PadPulse. If you hopefully maybe look through our website, you've seen our features tab. We have over 50 features in total. Quick background on myself. I started in co-living about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. Bought 3 houses all at the same time, total of 32 rooms. I did it without PadSplit for the first year. I had a team of 5, putting out lots of fires, lots of headaches. We processed 3,500 leads to keep those 32 rooms about 78 to 80% full. Frustrated after the first year. I hadn't bought the quantity target houses I wanted to get. I wanted to get to 7, and I didn't buy any that year. And so that was in 2020, I guess 4. And so at the beginning of 25, I switched all my 3 houses onto PadSplit. And then from that point to now, I bought 15 houses last year. And really, after getting on PadSplit, realized what it did well and what it didn't do well and what it was missing. My background, I spent 12 years selling things on Amazon. I've sold millions of dollars. I've built a couple companies from 0 to 50 people in about 1.5 years. And I've been everywhere from e-commerce to tech to various things. I am fortunate to have made friends in my e-commerce space. And one of my friends, who is my CTO and developer for this tool, was a product manager at Hootsuite, which was a really big company, if you ever heard of it. And he also helped build out Jungle Scout, which was a kind of the premier first tool that helped Amazon sellers find products like 10 years ago. So this isn't a vibe coded system that many of you maybe have seen. This is a developer backed tool based on my kind of experience, expertise, and the experts developers. So with that said, I'm going to jump in here. Main thing is I'll point out that this is a test research account. So I don't have any properties hooked up here. We're going to kind of run through the research side, and then I'll flip over to my other account, which is live, and you can kind of see more of the operation side. So first thing is when you log in, you create an account, you'll have access, and it asks you where you are on your co-living journey. In this case, I said, hey, I don't have a house yet. I'm still searching. So the system kind of points to where you should go. Hey, you need to fill out a buy box. We're going to browse research. You can track your acquisitions, and you have kind of your dismiss your help box here. And that if you ever dismiss it and you want to change your status, your stage, you can come in and you can switch that to something else. So you could say I have a house under contract as example, and it will then, change. If I refresh, it'll change kind of the messaging and where it's trying to point. Actually, I didn't hit save. That was my first issue here. Let me, 1 second. Okay, now we're back where I want to be. All right, so this helps you track you through. In this dashboard view, you have a full layout here. You can customize this layout however you want. You can move things around. Maybe you have different team members, different things are important to them. But these are just really like where your notifications go. And here we have all of your other hidden cards that you can put in. So you can really just customize this for what you want. You can preview it. You can reset it to default. It's really just a high level view. Because there's so much stuff built into PadPulse, every section has these nice little guides. I know some people love guides, some people don't, but these guides are super helpful if you're in an area that you've never been. And then also there's an explainer video, which is a video of me or one of my teammates. If it's blue, you can click on it, and it's just a video about that page specifically. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into like the research stage. So this is, if you guys are familiar with PadSplit and their kind of insights that you've seen, you know what that looks like, right? And how you can click around, and there's some really rich information there, specifically on a zip code level. This is kind of used focusing on the top level currently, which is just the city level. But we give it to you in a different way that lets you distill down what you are looking for very quickly. So typically you might be saying, I don't know where I'm buying yet. That's a common thing we might get. So you might come here and say, well, I only want to see PadSplit marketplaces that have over 250 rooms. And so you can filter by those rooms or larger, depending on what you're looking for. And then you can quickly see based on their growth rate, searches, volume, and kind of any of the same things that you would see across PadSplit. These first two are growth rate. This is actually one that we calculate, and we explain here how we do it. Search to room ratio is just number of people searching for every available room. This is a quick and easy way to see it. So let's say I like, as a market, I'm going to go by searches, and actually I want to look at occupancy. And let's say I want to go to Kansas City. So in Kansas City, I can see all the same details. And if I want to open up PadSplit, I can simply click right here. And this takes you to the same page that everybody would be familiar with. Coming back here. So that's all your details. Again, guide, explainer videos at the top. This is a full market analysis that gets generated every month. This is basically how does the AI look at this data in comparison to the data from the previous months, as well as it looks out and looks up this city from co-living perspective, understands how the city feels about co-living from like a legal landscape, and then gives you this nice big report. And then if you're on the kind of paid growth or professional plans, you can actually like ask live questions to it to distill it down even further for you. So then we get into like the city. Now, something if you've ever just looked at like what we just saw on PadSplit, excuse me, you'll see you only have like one data point. So on PadSplit, we said, as an example, the active searches, monthly searches, there's active units, sorry, was the number I'm remembering. There was like 617. And that's like an interesting data point on its own, but really what matters is how it's been doing over time. So you can see for the last year how this number is trending, and Kansas as its own has been growing in active units. You might say, how has occupancy been? Overall, it's roughly the same. It's definitely dipped a little bit as active units has gone up, which you would expect as there's just more volume. You can also see like upcoming units, if they're listed, weekly shared rates, and kind of how those rates. So this tells me shared rates have come down a little bit. Private rates have gone up. which I typically see across the board. Now you can look at monthly searches. You can see how all these change. So it just really gives you a different perspective to be able to see how it changes over time. Next, we can go and click on Google Trends, and this works most of the time. It depends on if Google Trends kind of captures at the city level. But what this does is this lets you see how Google searches for rent by the room or rooms for rent has changed over time in relation to how this search is. Sometimes it correlates, sometimes it doesn't, but this is another interesting thing you can see right on top. Now, this is one of my favorite features. You can go to compare cities. And again, this is really going to be used for you're trying to figure out where you're buying next. So here it's the same thing, but we can look across the board. So let's say I want to say only cities over 500, and then I want to select them all. And so here I can see data on, we're looking at searches by room. Let me just look at occupancy, so this makes more sense. And we can see how occupancy has changed, including who is the leading city in June across the board. Now I can simply switch between active units, upcoming, weekly shared, all of these, and really boil down. And right now we're only looking at places over 500. You can see monthly searches. An interesting thing about this data point, assuming it is correct on PadSplit side, is for the first time ever, Tampa has outpaced Atlanta for monthly searches. Obviously, Tampa's had this significant spike, it's showing, and Atlanta's actually dropped off a little bit from searches. But it's the first time anybody ever beat Atlanta on really any volume stat that's searches or active units or things like that. You could simply drop down to 100 if you wanted to, and you can just add more cities. And this will just, like I said, let you overlay everything. Now, let's say once you looked at this, you can see across the board, and you're like, I really like Kansas City. This is where I want to buy. You simply come up here and you click Find Buy Box Reports. Now, in order to do this, it would have thrown an error if I didn't have my buy box settings. So in my settings, it's already telling me, hey, you have everything filled out. You're ready. I put 15%, $1,500, max price of $400,000. I want between 9 and 14 rooms converted, and I want between 1,700 and 4,000 square feet on the square footage. Minimum lot size being 0 feet. This is partly because Zillow doesn't always surface this, so it kind of throws an error and makes it think like that it'll eliminate the property from a buy box if the square footage is in there correctly. We don't want HOAs, at least I don't, for any of my co-living properties, and then it gives you an understanding of like how that actually calculates out. The second important piece from your buy box settings is what is your underwriting defaults, which that's all saved over here, and this is all of my information of how I like to look at it from my monthly expenses and how I want to remodel, and all that information. So we'll go back to our buy box reports, and this is the one that we literally just ran right now. So it found 434 properties, actually, sorry, it reused the one from an hour ago, but it does it in less than 5 minutes. You also get an email letting you know it completed and how many met your buy box. So in this case, out of 434 it found, 15 of them met my buy box, 419 were outside of that. And we can then see by the addresses. So here we can sort by, if it's all green, I can just say, hey, only show me in my buy box. Now I'm only looking at those 15 out of the 434. And this first one's kind of interesting. That looks super cheap. Maybe I want to look at it. I can click on it. It's probably an auction. It's a foreclosure. So that's more of a starting bid. So that's probably not likely to be what it sells for. But let me go back here. We'll pick one that maybe looks a little more normal. So let's scroll down and maybe let's take this one at, I want to find one that's more realistic, like 200,000. Okay, so let's say this one right here. I like this property. Currently, it has its buy box, its price. It calculates what that price per bedroom is based on what you can use. The calculation for the beds, if nobody saw it earlier, is total square footage plus garage square footage divided by 250 is how it gives you your bed count. And then it just goes for a 3-to-1 ratio of beds to bathrooms. That gives you and then it applies your defaults automatically. So you got your cash flow, your cash on cash return, estimates what your mortgage would be, and your annual taxes. It also pulls in. And so this one is green across the board. And so, hey, I really like this one. I can checkbox it and it'll move it to my favorites. If I want to look at this listing, same way, we can go and look, and we want to do this anyways. Obviously, if you want to move forward with it, you'd need floor plans, etc. But really, this is about distilling volume down to a couple of properties rapidly. So let me go back here. All right, so I like that one. It went into my saved settings here. And here's what I have saved. So here's the properties I just did. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that one. We're going to say, let's just open it in underwriting. So if I open in underwriting, this moves it into my underwriting tab where my defaults were earlier. But now I'm able to see what defaults were applied, and I can edit those specifically underwriting this deal if I'd like to. Maybe I say, hey, one of these bathrooms is going to be a private, and then hit recalculate. And so it calculates just the total based on square footage. It's got the link there. It's got the square footage that pulled in. We just tapped RentCast. So we just pulled in the actual rent, like long-term rent data from RentCast when we loaded this. So we have that. We already know how many additional bedrooms. So this one's actually a little funky because it had no actual bedrooms listed in the underwriting. So I'm going to go back and pick a different one. Let's look at this one. I was looking at this one, so I have to look at that. But essentially, it calculates your actual change. So from 4 to 14, you'd have to build 10. So if I build 10 in my system, my defaults is they cost me $3,000 a piece. All my specs are in here. Let's say on my other screen, I'm looking at Zillow and I'm like, ooh, it's going to need a kitchen and it's going to need a roof repair and we're probably going to need plumbing foundation. So you got those. We could simply jump down to here's my total invested based on all my specs. PadSplit market data. So here we could click and we could open and it takes us to the exact zip code. In this case, there's not any PadSplits in that zip code. So we can just say, pull it from like the city. So we just pulled that in from the city. Those are the two items from PadSplit, which calculates what the monthly is. Then you come in and you just hit autofill. And because we had 12 rooms 14 rooms that were all shared, that auto-filled in. That gives me my gross income. It already has everything here. Electricity calculates at a price per room that I have saved. So it has my total monthly expenses. So based on everything I just looked at, this is my cost per room. And this is your cash on cash return with your monthly cash flow. I also have your full depreciation schedule, whether you do it standard depreciation or a cost segregation, and then what is your remaining annually if you go that route. And here's what it's valued at if you were going to sell this on a cap rate based on your NOI. So you're like, wow, this is all really cool. I want to share this with my friend. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to hit export PDF. And we're going to save this. And you get this nice report instantaneously that gives you all the information that you can save, you can email, you can do whatever you want. Now, after you get that, we do pull this from Zillow, Joel. After you get that, you want to move it into start acquisition. So once you're in acquisition, this is really a pipeline that helps you take the property from you're looking at it to you submitted an offer accepted, under contract, due diligence, appraisal, closing, all the way through the end. And then from here, you actually go into renovations. So in this particular case, there's a couple ways you could have a property in here. We just pulled it from underwriting and said, hey, we want to move into acquisition. I could just go to acquisition and say, I want to put a new acquisition. And I could put in a property address by looking it up in from Zillow. And I could pull, or looking up from Google Maps, actually, just pull any address in. Or maybe you, by the time you become a PadPulse user, you already have a property under contract. So you could simply click here and upload your actual executed contract. AI will extract every single item and every single date, and it'll auto fill in all of these key dates in about 25 seconds. And that gets you everything here. And the purpose of this is once you have all your dates in here on the dashboard for your acquisitions, it will show you if you have a property, and it will basically flag you a notification if you have a due date that's coming up. Maybe you have an inspection that's due or your option period expires. That's all going to be easily surfaced to you on your dashboard. And you can push it all the way through. And you can upload any type of document. So you can upload anything here. And you can put in your notes, upload it, and everything you upload gets stored just like kind of a Google Drive, but gets stored to the property forever. So you have an easy place in properties, which we'll get to shortly, where you can go and see everything. So beyond that, maybe you're new, you don't have a realtor. So we, PadPulse partners with realtors. Right now we have Matt Solis out of Matt Solis Real Estate. I've used him to buy more than 10 houses in Dallas, and Matt rocks. And you can see a certified realtor. So if you have any awesome realtors, feel free to have them check out PadPulse and they can fill out a partnership application. basically we're looking for, do they have experience with co-living is the most important thing to us. And you can simply work with them. And so if you want to work with them, you send them a message and it actually creates a connection request. And then you chat within PadPulse with the realtor. And you can have a two-way, and same thing on your dashboard. It'll keep you all notified of any realtor responses. Similarly for finance, here we talk about if you're new, the different ways that make sense to finance a co-living property. We mention invoice authorization as an idea, Yanni. You can your defaults, yes, you can put that in there and you can underwrite it with an invoice authorization. And then we have recommended lenders. So currently, one of our first partners, Fernando Corona, with My Remote Lender. So many of you probably know him. And same thing, you can connect with him, send him your information, and all chats from that happens inside of Connections. And then I have a test lender down here. So again, guides, explainer videos everywhere. Maybe you want to buy a property. So we have a full marketplace. In a marketplace here, there are different sources. One source would be a PadPulse marketplace. So this is actually a property of mine that I've listed to show how it works. And you can simply take a property that's active on PadPulse and you can drop it and anybody else can see it. From there, you'd be able to see the listing. So you have a full listing, it has all the pictures, anything you uploaded, talks about number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, asking price. And, we'd have different information that could be here that will show you like actual income figures. This property actually has an 1,800 square foot warehouse on it that's rented on a 2-year contract that's outside of the house, obviously. So it's a really cool one. The cool thing about this is both there's the marketplace that is between each other, and then there's wholesale deals. So these are sample wholesale deals. So we'll partner with wholesalers and they can upload and you can see deals. And then we'll have realtor-based listings. All of that will happen right here within the different sources. If you click on any of these, you can flip through the properties just like anywhere else. And then you can click and you can see all of the information that was essentially uploaded by the wholesaler. Now, we've all seen deals from wholesalers, and we all know that some of them like to underwrite pretty aggressively. Now, if you want to underwrite it to your own, you just come here and you hit copy to underwriting. And then that moves it in the same way as if I found it, but it just auto applied all of my underwriting. And then I can calculate anything and go down, pulls the exact market rent. And then I can go see my own thing. Now, this case, it's saying, hey, you're going to lose money. That's because okay. And so I know I speak fast. So please jot down your questions in the Q&A. And so here we have to pull in these rates, and then we fill in for the market. And then that gives us the wholesalers, it gives us our cost per room, cash on cash, based on our underwriting, not based on just what the wholesaler told us. And this tells me I was sourced it right here from the buy deal. So if I want to go back to the source listing, I can see it. And I actually, with my underwriting, I underwrote it slightly better cash on cash, I think cash flow, and slightly less cash on cash, if I recall, from what we just looked at. So that's kind of the buy tab. This takes us all the way through. Let's say you bought a property, or you already had a property, you bring it in and you want to renovate the property. So in this case, you would have a property. Let's say we'll take one of our ones from acquisitions, and we're going to move it into underwriting. It's actually going to want me to go through all of these steps. We'll just add a fresh one. So similarly, we can pull one from acquisition. We can enter the address, or if we have a property under a bid, we can simply pull it up and upload a bid. And the same thing is it'll extract every single line item with AI and apply your renovation as a budget. So for simplicity, I'm just going to go ahead and pull one that we were just working on. This then asks us, okay, if you're going to be in renovation, when are you going to start? We'll say it starts next week. I'm going to say permits. I'm going to do permits. So I have defaults. So there's a page for where you store all your defaults, whether that's, hey, a bathroom takes me 5 days to build, drywall takes this long, all of your things, you store items and how long they take. For me, my default for permits is 45 days. And the whole purpose of this is that it helps me track when I would expect it to be done. So for this case, I'm not going to upload any CapEx items and load in the contract. But you can see here, like just based on, hey, it's 45 days, you're going to be done on this date. You can upload your invoices, upload any bid or if you had items for underwriting, here's everything that I had in there prior. And so I'm just going to import those 6 items, including a 10% buffer. Now we have all of the single one of these items based on how long they take and based on a budget. And then if I refresh this page, my completion date, excuse me, it loaded this before I started. You can lock it. So you can lock, if you have different people on your team, if only admins can unlock a property. So like once you're kind of set in stone and things are ready to move forward, you don't want anybody to accidentally be able to change things. But you can do that. Once it's in progress, at that point, you can always go through and say, hey, my bedrooms got built. It keeps track of when they got built. And you can also log an expense. So let's say there it's telling me, hey, your property is not locked. Do you want to do that? So let's say my bedrooms are here. I had 33,000 and it lets me track exactly what I'm spending all the way through. And then I can enter a vendor's name. Let's just say I'm going to log this. It essentially says, hey, you're 9% over budget. Do you want to proceed? Yes, I'm going to proceed anyways. And it tracks your spend over time. Ultimately, at the end, when you get done, it tells you kind of how you are as a total and maybe how you should think about things differently if you were over or undershot it in the past. This button isn't going to take me to the income right now because this is a research account, which currently doesn't have access to the revenue side of things, but I'll show you that in the other account. But every expense gets logged directly to the system, and you can see easy property details. So from here, I can jump to this property. And so this is like the main system main area where my property is stored. So I can see everything from, this is where I put my floor plan link, my 3D tour link, maybe my current SOPs for this property, who my Wi-Fi is, what my Wi-Fi information is. This will sync to PadSplit, which you'll see in another live account, and it'll match by address automatically. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to enter any properties. If you're on PadSplit, you do not have to enter properties. You do not have to enter rooms, and you do not have to enter members. You just sign up, do one thing, and it takes like an hour or so, but it'll sync up. So you can put properties in a property group. Property groups, some people might not use them. Some people might say, I want to group by a city or an area or an owner if you manage for other owners. You can also create additional units. So like if you had multi-units on the property, you can connect them this way. And really that's important because your mortgage is, if you have 2 units, your mortgage is only for the building. And that really affects how the finances kind of level out. So there we got all our rooms. So in this case, this property, it already knew how many bedrooms we told it we're going to have. So it already filled. You have 14 rooms and it knew I was going to have 5 bathrooms. So I didn't have to create anything. You then can come here and you can assign a bathroom to any bedroom, just like you would on PadSplit. And if you put 2 rooms to it, it's going to tell you that it is a shared bath. You can put in your room descriptions. That's everything that you'd want for it. And ultimately, you can also you can put in your dimensions, so your width and length of your actual room, any other notes that you want about the property. And really where this gets to is when you get down to you want to launch the property, you'll just push launch and the agent and your bot will go and do it for you on PadSplit. You won't have to fill out the 55 questions or upload any information is the goal. That's like a beta feature, a feature that's currently in beta, but that's where it's headed. So you're just storing all your information here. You can then easily sort by a common space. So let's say you want to add a room, and let's say this is common. And we would say that this is a common space type. That then adds the room down here. And so if we're looking at common, we can see that. Now, where this is really valuable is like you can go to image generation. And so when you go and you create your images from here, and these are like default prompts that we give you and default settings for how your images are going to come out the other side, you can simply go to the image generation tab. Here's every every room, common space, bathroom, bedroom, all the above. And here is where, let's go ahead and test one. We're just going to say upload. We're going to say we're going to take this nice picture right here. And it's actually not letting me do this because I'm under a research account. So we're going to, this is pretty much everything with on research. We pretty much covered all of these functions. Oh, it's just slow. I lied. So here's the image that gets loaded up that we just uploaded. That's what it looks like right now. Then we simply say, hey, we're going to generate a room. And we hit generate. And that tells us it's doing this, and it'll update in a second to say that that is processing. And then it's going to give us an output of what this looks like. So we'll come back to that in a second. Knowledge base is where you store all of your details about the property. So there's two components of knowledge base within PadPulse. There is a knowledge base over here on the bottom left. And this is like, think of this as like my company. So my company rules, and you can simply click here and then gives you a template and you can fill out all your information. And knowledge bases are important because we later use AI to help you draft responses to messages that are coming in from members. And it needs to know about your company, what your policies are, as well. It needs to know knowledge base about the property level. So this is where here goes. And over time, the AI writes its own memory and remembers things, whether it's from chats or from various areas, and helps it kind of learn and get better at your knowledge base. So we'll go back to this property level, and this is where there's a knowledge base for a property. And so the same thing, like here, you might say, hey, my Wi-Fi details, my trash recycling schedule, all this information about your specific property. And then again, it uses that to respond. So it uses kind of those two components to draft messages. Currently, and we'll get to messages on the live account later, and we'll see kind of the different rules. Documents, I mentioned anything you upload ever to about the property will all be stored here. It'll be easy to find. Your devices, we'll get to on a live property. Appliances is you'll add all of your appliances. So think of this as just a way for you to store your make, model, serial number, where you bought it, how long the warranty is. Here's where you go to claim a warranty, and where you bought it from, everything you need to know, including a photo of maybe where it's located in the room. And then you can have additional notes. And why this is valuable is if you're tracking all your appliances, we later have a robust task management system. So if you have a task to fix a washer and dryer, you can simply connect the ticket to a specific appliance, link it, and in here, it'll track how many tasks you've had with an appliance and how much you've spent. And the AI may recommend like, hey, it's time to replace this washer and dryer because you're having lots of problems with it. You'll be able to see members here, which it'll auto filter based on the members of a house. Same thing, financials will jump to like financials, and it will filter your full P&L, which the income is either one-click imported from PadSplit, and you can overlay additional income. Like for me, if I have a house that has a warehouse, I can add that as its own income line. Or we'll see how it actually inputs directly from a bank. We have a direct integration with a particular bank, and if you do that, you basically don't need QuickBooks. We'll pull all your income, all your expenses on its own, and you'll be able to have kind of your settings and how this works. So let me go back to this property. We talked about maintenance is this. Again, this is just where I would see all my tickets, maintenance tickets for particular properties. So this, you can see it in bulk in one area, and then you can see it on just a property level. Supplies, that's things you might order for a house. We have a full walkthrough system of how that works. And then we have furnishings. This is like if I was ordering, I could have different items that I regularly order because I always use the same bedroom, bed frame, etc. So that's all of research. So everything that I've showed you essentially up to this point is completely free. There's a full free research function. It is going to be limited on how many searches you can run on a free research just due to various costs. But you'll be able to run a certain amount, and then you'll be able to upgrade to like a monthly research plan to effectively do unlimited research. And all right, that's pretty much everything from a account under research. So let me drink some water, and then I'm going to flip to one that is more live. Okay. All right. So here's a live account. And so this is like where this is my live account. And you can see your last month's profit. You can see your occupancy. We let you exclude. One of the settings is to exclude rooms that are inactive. Sometimes we have rooms that are inactive for various reasons. And if you just look at PadSplit, the occupancy data there is not accurate based on rooms that are inactive on purpose. So you can kind of toggle that either way based on what you prefer. So I'm going to jump to messages, and then we'll kind of back into members and some of the other, and then tasks. So for messages, if you've been on PadSplit, you understand like what the limitations are. So in this case, you can see a lot of feature-rich information. I do want to call out my account has basically everything that's in beta unlocked. So you may see things here that aren't actually available. I apologize for that. One of those being this Telegram link on the right-hand side. So within here, we can see the full message history that comes in from PadSplit. There's a 60-second sync. So anything that happens on PadSplit comes in 60 seconds, and vice versa. If you reply, it goes back in 60 seconds on PadSplit. So it's essentially instantaneous. So one thing that's different if you all experience is if you click on a message on PadSplit and it marks it as read right away. Maybe you clicked on one message. Oops, that wasn't the one I meant to. You click on another one, but you didn't even read that first one. And now it falls through the crack, especially at scale if you have a lot of members. So what we have is a simple resolve functionality. So when you see here, I can see on the left-hand side, I can see all my members, and I could see only ones that are unresolved. So let's see, we look at Paul here, and we can see, okay, this is the message that's unresolved. And I can simply respond to him and then mark it as resolved. It shows me here when it was resolved, who resolved it, and all of the information. So that makes it super nice and easy. You can also, if there was a bunch of messages, you can click up here and you can hit resolve all, and it marks all of them resolved. If you accidentally didn't mean to do that, you can click on done or undo, excuse me, and it will put it back. So for here, let's look at another one. Now, while we're looking at this guy's information, let me go to one that's actually in a room. We can see there's all of this information on the right-hand side. So you can simply collapse that. And if you want more space, or if you're on mobile, you can kind of collapse these left and right panels. So this is your inbox. This is your member info. So member info, what we have here is we have their contact information. I know what property they're in, their address, their room number, their move-in date, their floor plan. So if I need to click on here, it just opens the floor plan in another tab. If I need to see a 3D tour because I need to look at it to go remember something, I can just click that and it will pop it up. So we don't host the 3D tours for you. You have to have those hosted, but then you can kind of go in and, then you can grab any link and you can easily send that to the person if you needed to. Also, I can see their Wi-Fi information here. I can see his lock data. So this currently isn't showing on purpose, but it will show what is their lock code and when is the last time that their code unlocked their room door. Will be visible from right here. I then have a live temperature of my thermostat. We work with pretty much every major thermostat system that exists. I use Sensi, Ecobee, Honeywell, Nest, all of those work, as well as a handful of others. And what this is that's our live temperature right now. Because of the way we connect to thermostats, you can actually, and I'll go show you one on one of the houses so you can see a trend over time. We go to this particular house. And so if I look at my devices on this house, I can actually see how this temperature has reacted for the house over time. One of the features and the functions, my goal actually for PadPulse was to make you never have to leave. So ultimately, you don't really have to go on PadSplit to get any information. You don't have to open an app to go look at your thermostat. You don't have to open an app to look at your locks. Everything is here. And because the way that our system works, we actually can tell you far more information about various devices than even the thermostat can. So if you have Sensi thermostats, you can jump on right now and it'll say it's 74 degrees, but you can't tell you that it's been 74 degrees or how it's trended over time. And so that gives us a really interesting rating across all thermostats. If there's multiple, they'll show up here. And the goal behind this is you can set an out of range alert threshold. So you've all had, if you host co-living houses, you have people that say, hey, it's hot in here. You look, you're like, crap, it's 80 degrees. It's supposed to be 74. We need to hit an HVAC technician. The goal behind here is because of the way we're tracking it, we could just warn you, / we could just contact the HVAC vendor ahead of time and tell them, hey, we currently have a temperature that's 70, it's 4 degrees over, it's not maintaining. And then we could proactively tell the tenants that we already realized it and that we have somebody on the way. That's the ultimate goal here. We also can see all of our locks. So whether it's Sifely locks, TT locks, Augusta locks, Slog locks, you name it, we can integrate. TT locks and Sifely locks are unlimited locks, are free on the professional plan. If you need any kind of the other off-brand locks, there's a $2.50 cost per lock per month. But most of us are using Sifely TT. And we already have our own PadPulse locks in production. So within 6 months from now, you'll just be able to buy locks at an even better rate for a better lock directly from us. Let's look at some of the rooms. Oh, and actually, I jumped off too early from my other one. I forgot to show you guys. So let me put this back. And let's go to the one that we made. Image. So this was the after. This was the before. And we simply made this. And if we said we liked it, we can hit save variant, and then we have a version of it, and then we can set that as a primary. So that's the one that gets posted later to PadSplit. And if we don't like it, we could go through and we could say remove all the furniture, and then I could generate that, and we'll have another variant, and there'll be no furniture in it in just a minute. So we'll leave that one up and come back. Let's go back to here while that one's loading. Roughly, they take about 40 seconds for that to work. So it's over there. Okay. Let me jump back here. I know I'm moving fast. But I'll take all questions at the end. So please jot them down, drop them in the Q&A, and my team will help me out. So we already went through acquire. Let's go back to messages. So we already talked through all of this. We got their vehicle information, their emergency contact. This is how, all of your messages are. We can mark resolved. Now, you've all done this where you're like, man, I'm trying to find a specific thing. So let's say I'm looking for, somebody said the word money. And so I typed the word money. And so this is looking for messages. So these are messages. This is every person who ever said money to me, ever. Now, I really am looking for the one that happened in the last 7 days. So here's a couple. Now, if I click on this, it'll automatically jump me to right here. It's the most recent message, so I didn't highlight. But if it did, it would go here and it would say, okay, this said money. Now, if they said money several times over the last 30 days, let's find one that has that. Let me find one that said more than, okay, so this one has 6 times. So they said money 6 times in the last 30 days, and you can simply cycle through them and see every time that they actually said money. And then you might say, hey, we had an issue here. So you come in and you tag somebody in your team, and I'm going to tag Camille, and I'm going to put hello, resolve this. And this, if you've ever used Slack, it's basically Slack on top of PadSplit messaging. And then she'll get a notification inside her PadPulse account, and she'll be able to one-click jump on it and come into here. Now, maybe I have this message where, let me clear money here so it stops highlighting. Maybe I sent this person a message and I said, hey, you guys need to do something, or I need a response from you. I can mark it as awaiting a reply. So when that message is awaiting a reply, I can see what date I marked that. And then on my dashboard, I can see all messages that are awaiting a reply. So it makes it really easy to jump back in. I can just set a due date of when something's due. I could assign a specific message to a team member. I could do the internal thread we just started. Or let's say this person, in this case, was a maintenance ticket. So I could simply say, hey, I want to push this to a maintenance ticket. And I'm going to say washer leak as an example. And this is the description that she had. And then let's say we're going to assign it right here to a particular vendor, and we're going to create the ticket. So that's ticket number 59. You can see the ticket right here. And so it's tagged based on this. Let's go to what property she's in. I'll show you this other feature. So now let's say we get another message from a different member, and this message is also related to the same ticket. We just click and we say link it to the existing ticket. And I think actually I might have clicked on the wrong house because it's not saying there's any tickets. Let me go back. Stephanie. Okay. So if I jump to the ticket, this is like the ticket board. So I'll first start here. So this is kind of what you guys are familiar with. If you're on PadSplit, you've seen a view that looks a lot like this. I'm going to collapse this menu out of the way too. And you can see requests open, in progress, on hold, completed. So it's very similar, but we also have completed payments. So all your payments get processed directly within PadPulse. You basically, again, you never have to leave. We'll run one of these all the way through so you can see how that works. But we also have a lot more feature-rich information. So I'm going to say in this case, this is the one that we just looked at. You can link multiple messages to here, and then you can remove them or you can view them. And I can come in here and I can same thing. I can chat and say, with somebody and say, what do you think? And this is basically an internal chat, just back and forth with my team, anybody on my team, all within this task on top of it. A couple other things you can see here is this push to PadSplit. So this feature is set to go live in July, but essentially we'll have a two-way sync for tasks. So if a task comes in on PadSplit, it's just automatically going to appear here, but then you'll be able to edit and add additional information to it and then send it to a vendor. And it'll be a two-way sync. So if you wanted here, this was made from a message. If you wanted to push it to PadSplit, which most of the time you would, sometimes you wouldn't, you could just make it appear on PadSplit the same way, so that the tenants kind of get notified of it and push it through. So maybe I edit this. Here's where I could set the priority. In my settings, I can say what are these priorities and what my SLA I want them to do, how often I want them to get completed, and it will kind of flag us as we're going along. Maybe we say that this is an appliance. This is where I'd say you'd link it to an appliance. This property doesn't currently have any appliances, so that's why there's none there. And then I can assign it to a team member. Here you can see different vendors. So when we add vendors under our vendor directory, like our CRM, which we'll get to in a bit, you can see you'll be able to sort them based on they have a certain skill level, and they have you rank them on like who you want to go first. So you can easily see there. Maybe I set a due date and I say, hey, I need this fixed by next week. I can add any attachment that I want. And let's say I had like 6 messages from 6 different people that all came into here. And I just want to let AI draft it for me. So I just hit this button, and in just a second, it's going to load up a response. So it's going to say, hey, we have a washing machine. It knows the property address. These are the issues, potential water damage. And so this is the thing that gets sent to the vendor. And it distills that from multiple messages and all the information it knows. So then I save that. Then I hit here and I go to send to vendor. And then that just popped up. It dinged in my ear. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay. This is my texting system. And so here you can see, here's the link. And so it's going to say your vendor is going to get this. Hey, Travis assigned you this. There's a washer leak. Here's the property view, your chat. They're going to click on it and they're going to see all of the information and where it is. And they can assign it to multiple team members on their side if they'd like to, or they can accept it themselves. Once it gets accepted, it basically starts a message thread of everything that's happening. And went from requested to open. So on our side, it automatically moved to an open status. And then let's say you'll notice here that there's a vendor chat now. So now that the vendor is assigned and has been sent this, the vendor could come here and they can message on my way. They can send videos, they can send images, whatever they want to do, all from right here. And on your side, you then get notified, and this is going to appear in just a couple of seconds. There you go. So it's on my way. So it's basically a two-way instantaneous chat. So within the task information, I have all the information. I can have a two-way chat with my vendor, and I can have a two-way chat with my internal team, all from here. I can also download a whole task record, which pulls a PDF for my records if I want to save it, and everything that ever happened about it, including both of the chats. That's easily there. Now let's say the vendor now goes back. And this is their vendor board. So this is like on their side, they get signed up as a vendor on PadPulse, and everything they ever need is right here. They have all of their tasks they completed, how much they charge for them, which ones are active, different forms that they get sent. So you can automatically sending a landscape form every week or every 2 weeks. You can require checklists. It geolocates where they were when they actually filled out the form. So if they're lying to you and they're 1,000 miles away, like it tells you that. You can do it for cleaning forms, and there's a bunch of different template forms that we provide. They can see all of their alerts, and same thing. Everything that happens, they get a text, and then it takes them to their portal. They simply punch in their phone number. It sends them a 6-digit code and lets them into their portal. So they can maintain their team. They can track like how much they charge, how much each of their team members charge for hourly trip fees or a flat rate offering. They connect via Stripe. So you just click one button on your side and it pays them via Stripe, and they get paid via Stripe all within the system. Currently, the vendor, everyone knows there's a 3% credit card fee. So the host pays that 3% fee, and then the vendor gets a 3% deduction, which PadPulse keeps as part of a platform fee. So they can have their profile and all their information. And if a vendor is brought on to the PadPulse marketplace by any host, a vendor can choose to upgrade to a marketplace listing, which would basically allows them to get found by any other host on PadPulse by paying a monthly fee. And then you would be able to see it just like if you ever use TaskRabbit, you might find a vendor that has X ratings, X number of ratings, 4.8 stars, whatever, and how many jobs they've completed. But the difference about here is all the vendors would have only been working on co-living houses. So their experience, they understand kind of the flow and how it works. One caveat, just to be clear, is if a vendor upgrades to a marketplace listing, but they don't take any jobs from PadPulse, we do not charge them anything. There's no cost per month. There's only a flat fee if they get a job, and then plus the 3% that we mentioned. They can upload work photos, profile photos, everything they want. As well, there's a full FAQ and 7 different guidebooks for the vendor on how their system works. So that's just so when you guys are talking to vendors later, you kind of know what they're getting into. One of the biggest transitions for switching to a system like this is going to be onboarding your vendors. But ultimately, most people that I've seen are looking at this is either my vendor is going to get with a program or I'm going to get a new vendor because it's going to save you just so much time. So we'll go back to this task and we'll go to the vendor. Let's go back to my task that we're looking at. Okay, so here's the task. I may have clicked on a different one, but they accept the job. And then they might say like, all right, this is a hourly job. And let's say they charge $50 an hour. They estimate it to be 2 hours. They charge $20 travel fee. I can start tomorrow. And that's what the vendor tells you from their side. So they accept it, right? And then from your side, I think that's on this one actually. Yeah. So on your side, you get a vendor estimate right there of everything that they said, as well as what they said here. So you're like, great. And this was from the message before. This is the vendor that said they assigned it to a team member. And kind of everything that happens, there's just a record of it. So the vendor then says, I'm starting the work. So they click start the work when they're on site. Again, they can scroll down and they can message you anything they want. We're tracking by the second how long they're spending. So this is your total cost by second over time. They can pause it. They can resume it. They can add manual time if they needed to. And then ultimately, when they get done, they can put the job on hold. And then they get done, they hit mark as complete. When it marks as complete, it calculates the actual final amount, which in this case was they only worked for 31 cents because they worked for about 9 seconds. And they had a $20 travel fee. So that was the total. On your side, this is going to update in just a second. Typically, you're not staring at it when somebody is there, but now you can see right there, like this is your total charged. Okay. So that's your total charge. Now this just moved all the way over across all of these things automatically. And here's your charge. So now you can just hit approve and pay. This takes you to your pending approvals, and you can still go back and chat with them if you'd like. It shows you the breakdown of exactly what the vendor receives, how much PadPulse is taking as a fee, and what the total charge is. I don't want to do this because it'll actually charge my card and try to pay somebody, but you simply click approve and pay, and it is going to, do so. You could reject it if you needed to. If you reject, it goes to PadPulse support and lets us kind of intervene and understand. That would be pretty rare to get rejected, but you can also chat if you need to go back to the message and chat with the vendor if there's a discrepancy or something like that. So that's a pretty cool system across like end to end. And when you pay, it moves into paid and closed. You can also see all vendor payments here for any given month to make it really easy, and what's pending. So outside of vendor payments, one thing I want to jump to vendors to kind of close the loop on that. So there's both the vendor directory. So this is where you would track a specific vendor. You would add them to your side as a system. You would say what roles they have, what their specialties are, which properties that you have them assigned to, because if they're not checked here, it's not going to let you assign them if you get a task for that property. You can then see all invoices you get from this property, and you can split it up and it'll show you by property what that vendor has charged you. You have rates stored on your side, so you can see various reviews that you've left them and who's on their team, and if they're the owner or the member of their team. Also, and then when you add them, you just invite them via email or SMS, and that just kind of gets them into the system. You can sort by specialty if you want to see what they are, and you can change their priority if you want somebody to be a different priority of a handyman for a different property. That's all within here, and they're easy to add your own people. Or maybe you don't have anybody in a new city and you come over to the vendor marketplace and you can simply see one that's selected there. You'll see how many jobs they've done and their rating, and you can click and add them and they'll automatically appear. Going back to the vendor side, if they've worked with multiple hosts, you'll be able to see on their side, they'll see all of the different hosts and all the different properties they're assigned to. And then they'll actually be able to set different team members as default assignees on a per property basis so that when tickets come in, it saves them a step. That's the vendor marketplace. Vendor payments, this is where we were looking at earlier. You can see both ones that have paid versus approvals. And then there's the settings is if you're doing this at scale, we have 180 rooms personally. And so you kind of get finances kind of get all over the place. So what our system will do is you can create a credit card. You can have a credit card per property. So you just add your cards in here and you put in your information. It links it up and it saves it to your Stripe account. You then come down here and you assign property to a specific card that you have. That way, when you pay the vendor, it automatically pays the right property with the right card and you don't actually have to do anything. And that's how you sync them up. We also are in beta on a program where if you were banking with Mercury and you create a new property in the system, PadPulse will automatically provision and create you a new credit card in your bank on its own and then save it back here and link it to the property. You won't ever have to create the credit cards. And that is currently in testing. I expect it to be live August at the latest, probably July. So that's kind of the vendor end-to-end and how it connects with tasks. We'll talk about, I'm going to go back to another. We went from messages directly to a task seamlessly all the way through vendors and came back. So I want to point out another kind of functionality that I've experienced. Let's say you have somebody in your house or a neighbor calls or a current member says, hey, there's this blue Kia. There's a Kia parked in front of me, but they don't know whose it is, right? So if you've ever done this on PadSplit, you got to go in and you got to go click around and you got to open every single person. And if it's not the first person you guess, you got to go back and then click 4 more times to go see their car. That's like the step. If you have 10, 11 people, you might do that for all and then realize actually this car is not registered. So you end up having to broadcast message the whole house. So for us, you just go to vehicles under members and you just type in that I have a Kia and there's every Kia in your system. And then we could say, okay, it's at this house. So I could filter by a specific property and there's only one. That's a blue Kia. I click on message and bam, here I am to message that guy instantaneously. And I can call him out about his car. And so that's a super, just easy time-saving thing. So you can see all vehicles. You'll be able to, from messages, other functions, you can have canned messages. So you store canned messages. Maybe you say something like, hey, member, please pay. That's an example. You can set up as many canned messages as you want. You can insert dynamic information here about their member, their room, their property address. And so when I go back and I want to respond to this person, I just can do / and click and it will autofill their name, or I can click and see any of my canned messages, which you can do them by folders. The system will also show you who uses on your team, how many times they've actually used these collections and these canned messages, so you can determine what maybe you should be adding or trying to get rid of. That's canned messages. If I want to send a message, I can actually schedule a message to go out tomorrow at 8 a.m. versus having to send it right now. That's another feature function. And then you can set up message rules. So this is automated messaging system. Some of these, as I'll show you, are, like I said, beta and functional now, and some of them are in progress. So here you'd set up like a rule. So as an example, we would say, send this message and we're going to send it to a specific property. And you can select more or less properties. And then there's 3 types of rule types that can happen. One would be event-based. So it's triggering off something happening. A great example would be a new booking. You get a booking request. I want to send a booking request only to the person who triggered it, and I want to send it immediately. And as I'm saying this, I have one that's an example. And so this would say, hey, all properties, event-based, new booking, send it automatically. You could also say after delay. You probably wouldn't do that for booking, but for other messages, you can imagine how you might want to delay it by time or custom and set number of days that you want to send out. Or maybe you want to review it before sending because you want it, if you're going to use AI to draft the message and you don't want it to just kind of blast it out because that could be dangerous. And so you want to run into a draft, which drafts all land on a different page and you get notified. So let's say we just want to send this automatically. Here's the content. Again, I know there's a lot of stuff here. All of these guides walk you through and tell you everything that you need to know. But we're going to say, hey, first name, thank you for booking with us. Here is a booking link. All booking request forms, you will never have to go jump to Jotform, Google Form, any other forms. They're all built into PadPulse, which we're going to next to look at forms. You can give them the street address and you can sign it. So that way, when somebody automatically gets this message, you could say a scheduled message. So maybe you want to send out a trash message every week at, say, a certain time. and a day, right? And so that's another way you could do it. Incoming messages are the ones that are mostly in testing. A lot of these are disabled. This is around where you're really using AI to say, okay, for one or more properties, if somebody says something like locked out, can't get in, lost my key, whatever you want to say here, only reply to them. Or you could say, hey, there's an emergency, automatically reply to everybody. And this, in this case, you're not putting any message content. You're giving AI directions of how it should answer. And obviously, if any of you used AI, sometimes it's great. Sometimes it always needs training is really what it comes down to. So it's going to land those in your draft messages. You'll get notified via email or text you have set up, and you'll hop in, you'll be able to see the draft message, edit it if necessary, and hit send. Maybe over time you learn that, okay, there's certain types of drafts, like those ones are good, and you could just kind of go turn those on auto. Personally, if you're letting the AI fully do the message, you probably should be drafting it. So you'd see anything that was scheduled to going out. We talked about the rules. You can easily see all what's enabled or what's disabled here. And then settings is, this again is beta. So if you're having some houses that are not on PadSplit, for those of you who saw me at conference, we didn't have this functionality, but we're already having it in testing. You'll be able to have Telegram connections, and you hook up like a BotFather if you're familiar with that. And you'll be able to message people through the automation through Telegram for houses that might not be on PadSplit. So if you get kind of a split system, you could do that. Lastly, you can broadcast a message. You've all done this before, where you can select multiple houses. On PadSplit, though, it sends it to everybody. Here, you could deselect, and you could say, I only want to send it to certain people at certain houses. And then you can type your message out, and you can schedule that as well. So you could schedule this message. Sorry, not schedule. Insert a canned response and send it to everybody, and it'll autofill their name across the board, so it's more personalized. And that's pretty much everything. I think in messages, there's a lot there. Connections is really just where you talk between realtors, lenders, or various other people, as well as talk between host to host. So if somebody was selling a house, me and Heather could talk as an example, and it'd all be contained within PadPulse. We already talked about properties. We talked about acquisitions, booking requests. So this is where you wouldn't need Jotform or any of those. So let's say we have a default, and you can create different templates. We will supply you with a template. You can simply click new, and you can load our defaults, and it will load everything in. You can now set up conditional formatting. So if you say, hey, one question is required for another, you can set up any conditional formatting that you want, as well as you can paginate it. So you can have multiple pages if you'd like, and you can override, and you can set your own template. So like for each template, maybe you are a property manager and you want to send different logos, different colors, whatever it is, you can customize that on a template-based level. Once you have your templates, you then would say, hey, here's a preview. This is the link. You'd copy this link, and you'd use that in the automated message that gets the potential member to the right form. And so this is a different form that they're using. So let me show you some of the examples of what you can do. So these are all the different functions you can do. And let me open up and show a preview, because there's some cool features that we've built in. One of those being I gotta open it actually. Oops, I just made a copy. I want to copy the link, and then I'm just going to open it. So this is the same thing as if you just sent it to somebody. They would see it like this. Now they come down, and let's just say you want them to record a video. So it one click records the video of them. Maybe ask a question, introduce yourself, tell me about why you're interested in my PadSplit. They stop it. They can see it. They can watch it. They can redo it. You can upload any quantity of documents, required documents, set the quantity. You can make them have a checkbox. You can make them actually sign it, save a signature, and you can make them take a photo where they hold up their driver's license, and then they capture the driver's license in their face. And then I'm not going to fill all the rest of this out and take the time, but when a booking request comes in, it's going to have a submission, which I guess it's on my other account. I'm not going to take the time to jump into this, but basically you can see everything they saw. You can watch the video. You can see all their information, and then you'll have a approve or reject button. Currently, that does not do the thing on PadSplit, but by July, likely by launch in the next few days, you'll just click approve, and it's going to auto approve them on PadSplit. You won't actually have to go on PadSplit to do that. So that's kind of booking requests. Reviews, I'm not going to jump into. That's more of a thing that's in testing, so I don't want to really show that right now. Operations, we already talked about tasks. That was this board that we saw there. And then we have forms. So forms I briefly touched on, maybe a landscaper form. You can have different sections that you create, front yard. You can have a checklist items. You can require any photos. You can include a notes field. And this is just how you build out your forms. And then once you have your different forms that are built, and we have some that are going to default come with you, you can set some for recurring. So like as an example, this is going to auto send to a particular handyman every week on Monday, starting on a particular day. You can create a schedule, set a property, set which template it's going to go to and which vendor it goes to, and it just automates sending them a required form. They fill out. You can see which links were actually sent. You can chat with them if needed to. You could send them a reminder, you click this. It's going to send them a text message that just beeps in my ear, and that comes in and says, hey, you have a reminder for your landscape form. That's how they get to it, and they put in all their information. They check, do this. I don't want to waste the time to do that, but they submit the form. When the form comes in, it looks like this. You can see everything they submitted, all of their pictures, all of their items, and everything that you'd like. The cool thing at the top, it told me I submitted this from 2,100 miles away. Generally, if somebody's your landscaper, they're probably at your property. They should be when you're filling this out or pretty close by. I've been burned where somebody was sending me old pictures and I paid them a lot of money over the course of a few months. And I only found out because the city called me and said, hey, your grass is 12 inches tall. So we then now geolocate everybody, your cleaners, anybody filling out a form. You can send forms as one-off. You can create the templates and everything there. So supplies would be, let's say you order toilet paper for your house. If you happen to do that, you have a catalog of all your items that you order. You save them in your system. And then you can set those up for reoccurring as well. So reoccurring would basically remind somebody on your team. So you can, in your settings, you can set up a property and you can say who on my team should be the one that automatically gets reminded. You might be the same for everybody, or maybe you have different people on your team across different properties. That reoccurring pops up and it's going to say, hey, these are requested, and it's going to tag that person. They'll see it on their dashboard. They come here. They can simply click on the purchase link and pop it up on Amazon directly to it. That one's not linked up. And then they can just, buy it. Once they buy it, they say, hey, this was bought, and they mark it as ordered. They put in their order number, which I think it's going to flag it. And then let's say they put in the tracking link, right? That is, just going to go to one of the other ones that already has this. They put in the tracking link. So that way at any time you can come back, you can click on it, and it'll just pop open the tracking link and you'll be able to see right where it's at. You'll also be able to click on history and it'll tell you how many times you bought it and when you bought it ever per house. So it'll track your average day, and it'll flag it if you're abnormally burning at a faster rate than you typically should be. So that's everything around supplies. This functionality works the same in furnishings, which I wanted to look at it here because I have a lot more furnishings. So here I have all my items that I buy from a furnishings catalog. So this is literally every single thing I buy for houses. And then you create packages. So in this case, I might have like an easy one would be like a standard room with a full bed. And so when I click on here, here's all the stuff I'm going to buy. If I click on open, it just opens to every single one of those Amazon links as needed. You can edit your own pricing. You can edit your links. You can make your own stuff. We do include kind of a full-fledged catalog like on account creation. So you can use our stuff. You can delete it, archive it, add your own, whatever you want to do. An address book is where you maintain, like maybe you send it to a particular handyman. One thing we do is when we ship a whole room, we ship the room to the handyman's house and we label that box room 1. That way, when they get 10 rooms at once, they just take everything at once to the house and they just move everything into the room 1, room 10, whatever. And then they open everything, and it makes it far easier and faster to stay organized and install versus ordering 10 beds at once that just have a house name on them. Really saves time. You can import your entire CSV, so you can download a template, which will pull in Excel, and you can pull out all your items in, and you can or export your current items and then just import them back in. So if you guys already do this, you can just easily load everything in. And again, guides are your best friend, as well as the explainer videos. So that was furnishings. I'll hop back to operations. Trash service, something that is currently in testing, but if you've ever, from the short-term rental space, there's one company out there that currently handles 50,000 properties on a monthly basis. That basically means they go to your house for you and they take your trash can from, the garage or wherever it is, the backyard, to the curb, and then they put it back. That service, we have a full coverage map. So it'll show you right here. Here's every property in my system. You can see the gray ones and the green ones, and you can zoom in and you can see if it went within their places. So any of these I could get service in. You simply come in here. You can enroll a property for regular service pickup. You tell it what day, how many cans you have, and if you have a second weekly pickup, what day that is. Currently, if you have one pickup, it's $50 per month, and they take your trash out every week and they put it back the next day every week. It automatically knew the right credit card based on the property per the vendor system that we had earlier. You're paying PadPulse and PadPulse is paying them. That's how it works. And you can enroll all your properties. It will not let you enroll a property that doesn't have service. It'll throw an error. And then you'll be able to see all your jobs. So you'll see jobs that have ran in the past, and you'll be able to see the pictures that they added for if they had where the cans were when they put them on the street and where the cans were when they put them back. So if you guys have ever had houses where you just have problems with members who can't seem to get their trash in and out correctly and causes additional issues, this is a game changer. You can also do on-demand requests. So you could just go to on-demand. You could pick any property, and they'll just do like a bulk trash pickup. This one says, hey, it's outside the area, but this one's good. So I could set it for urgency. And this one, when you fill this out, in this particular case, it's kind of based on how much we estimate it to be $100. If you had a bunch of stuff, it could be more, but you essentially pay and schedule, and it sends these on-demands are an email. The system will send an email to the vendor and to you and to PadPulse support so that we kind of have a sync around what's happening. And you'll be able to see this was a picture I uploaded as a test for what property it was and when it was requested by for like our on-demand requests. So all of that's maintained in here. You can see everything that you need to from trash service. Next thing inside of operations would be like pricing. So many of you, you probably just set your price based on whatever PadSplit tells you. Maybe you go play with it often every week or so, but ultimately you just leave it or you touch it every so often. What this system does is it automates that full thing, dynamic pricing. I do understand that PadSplit has their own internal dynamic pricing tests. I've been in the beta for like 8 months. It has its own quirks, but this is more, you control it. So you set up your own pricing models. This is something that we've done for 15 years in the Amazon space. We'd auto price products. So you might say like, hey, I want to fill a room extremely quickly, like when your house launches. So let's say I have a rapid fill rule. This one says automatically, so base price is whatever PadSplit tells you. So let's say they say it's $180. This says, hey, my minimum is 3% less than that, and my max is 3% over that. And I want to change 2% every 24 hours automatically. You can also make a rule, and the rule has like a promo, same thing. You could set number of weeks, percentage up to 30, end of month adjustments. Maybe you want to take these -2, -3, and +3. And at the end of the month, you think more people move. And so for the last 7 days of the month, it will increase those. So it'd be -1 and +5. Same thing. You could go the other route and say if the room's vacant for X days, then just these numbers south, go to -6 and 0. And then you can have like an occupancy adjustment. You set your move-in fee here, what you want, if you want to waive it or not. And then a coming soon thing is this is going to let you select a property in a room and see, and it will model out how that price is going to change for that room. So it'll help you like understand the rule that you just set. Once you have your rules set, you can simply come here, and then these are my vacant rooms. So currently I have 7 that are inactive. I only have 4 rooms that are currently able to be booked. And recommended price for this one is $181. The current price is $186. This is my minimum maximum. It's on my maximized profit rule. I can change the rule, and I can see what the next price is going to be. And then I can see every change it's ever had from right there. And then if it has a suggestion, you can kind of cancel it or accept it. These are where your suggestions go. I get an email every day, and it says like, hey, here's what I changed yesterday. Here's what I'm going to change tomorrow. And if you don't like it, you can click it, jump to this page, and then just change anything you'd like. But ultimately, some of these rules, I might go from a house is brand new. I set the best rooms to maximize profit. And in my case, that's like +3% and +12%, and it'll adjust 1% per day every day. And some rooms might be rapid fill. So that's pricing. Okay, let's go to devices. So devices, we have smart locks and we have thermostats. Most of these 2 features are on the Pro plan because there is a lot higher cost for us to operate these. Ultimately, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing all of my members what property they're in, what room they're in, when their code was activated, which code. So this is the name of the code in my lock. This is their PIN number, and this is the last time they opened it. So this is the same information that surfaces under the messages. So if I'm just talking to Abe, I can see all of his information easily right there. Now I can click on this and I can open, and I see every single thing that you would see if I went to Sifely. All right, so this is every program code in the system. I can edit it, I can revoke it, I can add a new code and add it to the lock. I can come into manage. And it already knows which lock is to which room. So it's associated the member, right? The battery recipient in my settings for my lock will know, and it will automatically send a message to Abe when currently I use 15%. So when my lock gets below 15%, it's going to send him a message and say, hey, you need to change your batteries in the next couple of days before it dies. Maybe I want to mute that. That message about the batteries is going to go out every day at 5 p.m. is based on how the settings work. And I can unlock it from here, and I can see the auto lock settings is like the one thing that you don't really change this over time, but you currently have to have that set up in the app. You can also see the activity. So every room, every code that ever opened that door, the same thing you would see on Sifely. And you can, this pulls regularly, but if you wanted to, you can like refresh it instantaneously. So that's kind of across the board. Maybe you look here, here's my different handyman. They have their access codes. This is all the categories they're in. And these are all the properties that code works on. So you can see here, here's all my locks across the board. In this case, this is a property that we were testing earlier. I had 12 rooms for it, but there's no locks. You can go to like an actual live property. This is the property that has 18 locks on it. So I can see any lock. Similarly, just different view. I can see all of my batteries for the locks. I could filter by only batteries that have less than this. I can filter by ones that are disconnected from the gateway. And I can easily see that. So those are your lock settings. Thermostats, same way. This is an easy way where you see all your thermostats, what's their current temperature, and if they're connected to Wi-Fi or not. I have one that's not. And this is just your overview dashboard. Within each of these sections is your smart locks on how you set them up. So you actually go through and you connect them here, and that's how it syncs up. So I can see all of my locks across the board. So when you first start, you just connect like your TT lock as an example, and it pulls every property in. You can then associate a property in a system to an actual property. And then here you then say, okay, this lock is for a common space. This lock is for X room, which allows you to then say, okay, which ones are common spaces, which ones are admins, or which ones are rooms. And you can really filter through any of this information really quickly. Settings is where you say when you create the lock. So something that's in testing right now is auto lock creation. So, auto code creation. So when a new member when you flip the room, essentially, we just create a code for the room and then go put it back in PadSplit for you. So you don't have to do that. So that's how you set like what is your default for your digits, number of digits for the code. Here's where you enable your notifications, 15% and when it sends out, and you save all that. Same thing. So for thermostats, you've all experienced this where you have different temperatures set in summer versus winter. So you set presets. So here's where you say, hey, I want my summer to be from this day to this day and winter to be this. And I want to get notified if my thermostat goes offline because obviously you want to know. Thermostats going offline and locks going offline is one of your first telltale signs that your Wi-Fi is down. So we can use that to surface to tell you stuff about your Wi-Fi. In here, you've set up a preset. So in this case, all of my locks across all houses, I use the same winter, summer set points, and I have all devices connected to one. And the purpose of this is it will just automatically change all thermostats based on summer or winter within a preset. You can add multiple presets. You can assign different properties, different things. That's helpful if you're like a property manager and somebody wants to keep it 72 and other people who want to save money like Dave want to be 78 degrees. That's devices. We went over vendors. We're at revenue and marketing, and then we're going to be done. We got 10 minutes before we have Q&A. So I'm going to start with marketing because this is if you've ever wanted to bypass a booking fee on PadSplit, saves you $250, $300. This is how you do it. So in here, we store what is your referral link. So typically a scenario right now is somebody posts a listing. You post a listing on Facebook Marketplace. So currently we have third-party listing sites. And really what this does is this helps you track just where your listings are. We do not, to be clear, we don't list for you. But you might say, hey, when I post a listing, I want to be default reminded after 7 days. And I can add any custom platform that I want. So that then I say, okay, I made a listing. So here's an example. I made a listing on Hot Pads. Here's the link. Here's the property. I published on this date and I want to be reminded on this date. And then here's my status. And then this is just for me to take notes. And ultimately what happens is on the dashboard underneath listing reminders, it will tell me, hey, your reminder's up, and you can go jump over there, make a change, do whatever you want to. But you can list across anywhere. So with that understanding, you go to your direct booking site. So right now, if somebody was on HotPads or Facebook Marketplace and they say this room available, most of you doing this are probably saying, yes, it is. I host on PadSplit and here's my link. And then you send them this link that allows PadSplit to connect them and get your referral code. It's kind of a wonky experience for the potential member. And so what you do in here, what we've done is we've created a built-in landing page. So here you can see I have a unique landing page that gets created for you, and you can set up that. You can set your own branding. You can put your own logo. You can customize pretty much everything, including what colors you want the buttons to be. And then you can add additional landing pages across the board, and you can set which properties right here under houses, what properties show up on that page. So you can, this is really helpful if you're a property manager and you want to run different landing pages for different owners, you can do so. And then ultimately, if I preview it, this is what it looks like. So now instead of sending somebody your link to PadSplit and then they land on PadSplit and then they click one button and then they're looking at all other houses and you lost them. And yeah, you still get paid if they move in. It's not the same experience. So in this case, you would send that person on Facebook Marketplace to this link, which would be customized for you. You have all your information. You got your colors you picked, and they can easily see what is my weekly rate, my bi-weekly rate, or my monthly rate across any given city or state. And they're like, wow, this is super cool. I can see it on a map. They can zoom in. They can see anything. I want to see this one. And let's say it's this. And they see all the same stuff. So they see like you have your whole FAQs. This is like a mini version of this is just your website, right? And then they're like, I want to apply. So then let's say, let's put Dave at email. And this has to be the right number of digits. Okay. They're going to submit and apply. Hey, you're great. You're qualified. It says we're going to redirect you to PadSplit. They click that and bam, they land on PadSplit the exact same way that you would have sent them before. But in the meantime, we captured them as lead at the same time. So we have Dave's test, and now we could, if we wanted to, we could follow up with him in a week and say, hey, Dave, where are you at? Are you still looking to move in somewhere? No, actually, I moved in at this other PadSplit. Okay, great. Oh, well, let me go back and make sure that PadSplit paid me for that thing because I don't really have any way to follow up with that person. So that's kind of the overall marketing system. We talked about that. Selling. So this is where I could sell my property that we saw on the booking page earlier. So I add all my own information, and then I can manage all my buyer chats and inquiries directly from here. Lastly, portfolio analytics. I'm not going to open that one because that's in beta, and but we're distilling a lot of information about your whole portfolio or your whole house. Now we're in revenue. We got 6 minutes left. So this is your full P&L. We talked about settings. It's hooked up via API to your thing. It imports all of your prior historicals from a particular day. Most of you have probably used QuickBooks. We direct connect to all of your bank accounts from here. I know exactly how many credit cards you have, how many that are missing, and how many they're connected to. We also have AI that has a confidence that will basically suggest, or you could turn on auto match to match things for categories. You can customize any category you want. There's a bunch of defaults. You can add your own, and you can make it a balance sheet or not, so it affects your P&L or not. We're anticipating integrating in Q4 with QuickBooks. Honestly, there's a lot of functions that Mercury gives us that you can't do. So I envision that most people are going to end up on Mercury. If you become a PadPulse user and you click on a Mercury link, it'll expedite you getting on, and Mercury will give you $250 if you have $10,000 in the account within 90 days. You've all experienced as business owners, you have to go and download your statements and give me your bookkeeper every month. Super annoying. You won't have to do that. We will auto download all your statements and we'll notify you via email when they're there. You'll be able to set a reoccurring expense. So, hey, my mortgage every month, and you want to split it up. You can split it and say this much in interest, this much, etc. Your expenses, they all pull in, and you can then match them per property. It auto tries to match based on different categories. And you have every expense here. This is an example of where we split a mortgage and it's suggested. We apply the suggestion, and this is where we split it up and said, okay, this mortgage payment is these 3 things. Income, one click, import your PadSplit earnings, has all your earnings. Here's every PadSplit earnings I've ever imported. If I accidentally mess something up, I could undo the last one. My manual entries are here as well. all my deposits are matched. And this is how you import, and it pulls everything. So then when you come in, you just go look and say, here's my P&L. These are my live bank balances. So I go click update. This is saying that my credit card isn't pulling because this API key that's in beta. So that part's just, hey, by the way, your credit cards aren't connected. But these are my live bank balances. And so I can see that here. Again, your goal, never leave PadPulse. I don't even have to go to my bank. I can come in here and I can see this is all my properties. I could sort by specific property to see a breakdown. And that's my my PadSplit income. So I can see all my income. This property is the one that has a warehouse. So there's a manual income. So this is kind of what this has been producing over time. Then I have my actual expenses that have been laid in. So if we look at a prior month, this is our total expenses. Now, for the sake of speed, when we did this, I don't have my mortgages at a property level. I have them just as a global count level. So if I go back here, this is more accurate. So for May, this was like my total payment from PadSplit. This is the number they tell you. And then this is what after they break it down, what you paid in, what I made in move-in fees, commit fees, all their various details. And I also have down here these PadSplit expenses for booking fees and platform service fees. All your other stuff is in here, including your mortgages. And then that's like your actual monthly profit. And if you put anything on your balance sheet, you can see it here. And so there's different CapEx stuff that is here. So it's easy to see. Then at the end of the year, at the end of the month, if I want to send this to my CPA, I just go and I download the CSV or the PDF. And if I want to send this, if my employee wants to send this to me, they just copy the link and they send it directly to me. And that kind of just saves me time for getting around. So that's the full revenue collections. So this is a big one. Some of you are going to love this. If you've all experienced on PadSplit, they charge, they don't terminate the person or send the messages, so they get the negative $299. Really, that's just a bunch of automated messages based on a trigger of what it is. So we can go and say, if you want it to be 0, we can effectively trigger the same messages. And so then we can have a system where we send out messages and what we require them to pay, how often they have to make a payment, when their payment deadlines are going to be, and how many offers one person could get. This one, is in depth in development, so we're tweaking it, but you could also, we'll let you set this to up to a positive $100. It'd be pretty hard to, not impossible, but difficult to transfer a house from doing it at negative 299 over to a positive 100. Much easier to do it if you did it at a house at launch, because you could just set the expectation when people move in. But ultimately, this tool lets you track all your activities and basically process collections within the system. Forwarding documents, I'm also not going to jump into that, but if you've ever seen a system where you just forward documents and it automatically scrapes them and knows what to do with them, that's basically where that is going. And full team permissions, so you can set up roles on a team-based permission level. So we can say, hey, a co-living ops team member. Personally, I use Dave at Co-Living Operations to be my manager of my houses. I'm focused on building this for all of you guys, but you can set your permissions across the board and then save this. And so it's both a property group level as well as a permission level for every single area. And then you just add a team member and you can track and see all of your various team members that are in here. Your billing is automatically tracked in here, and your different plans. You have upcoming charges, so it tracks. My account doesn't have charges, but it tracks basically which property you've added or removed rooms for, so that it can kind of calculate that all right. PadSplit sync, when you first set up, it tells you how to do that, walks you through it. It takes about 3 minutes, and 3 minutes to set up, but then how many properties you have will determine how long it takes to suck in, but maximum it's like a couple hours. And again, the full FAQ all throughout here. There's guides and everywhere else. And I'm at 90 minutes. I don't think I missed anything. It's definitely possible. But as you can see, this is a very robust system. And if you have an idea of something I don't do and it's a good idea and everyone else needs it, I can probably do it pretty quickly. So with that said, I will call that part adjourned. Cool. That's pretty much it. Thank you everybody for your time and for hanging on with me for 100 minutes. This has been fun, and I'm very proud of what I've built and my team has built. And I hope to see you on the other side and see you, find more properties, streamline more properties, be able to grow, scale, add more rooms with, 80% less headache or more. Hopefully you can see how the system is going to help you do that from all of the features and functions that we have.